Hello everyone and welcome to today's video where we are going to be playing, eventually, Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness. I'm a bit unprepared, so this is just a little preview episode to the series with something I discovered on the menu system. Because this takes place after the original 4 games, it's a bit of a jump in story. So I didn't realise, but there is a story so far section on the menu screen. I thought it was just going to be a quick recap of what occurred previously, but it's actually part of a story extension to this game that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know. It's quite long, so I'm going to do this as an independent episode before we actually go into the game. So we'll do this first. We will play the whole game at some point, but as an introduction to the story and to get ourselves caught up with what happened between the last revelation and this one, we'll just do this and we'll pick up the game next time from the beginning. I'm gonna disappear off the screen as well, so it'll literally just be the series because it is really interesting and it's got elements that I didn't even know were in this game. So I'm quite happy to just sit back, relax, watch the story, and then come back next time for the beginning of the game. So I hope you'll join me on the next part in the series, but let's have a look at the story.
Thinking about my desert family, the Bantiwa tribe, who adopted me, my mind goes back to the chill of that night in Egypt, when I finally fought my way free of the suffocating tombs. I only just made it. On my first meeting Patai, I never saw her. Blinded as I was and gasping for air, I was barely able to support my own body weight. Suddenly, I was aware that water was being poured into my mouth, spilling down my chin. Gentle fingers were spreading oil on my face and lips. Then I was being lifted and carried to a welcoming campfire. I could smell food, see figures dressed in classic Bedouin attire. Clearly the strangers were awed by my rescuer, whom they addressed as Sidi. With me they were cautious, but not unkind. Little did I know that these people would become my people, my family, my cause, and eventually, my greatest loss. The Bantiwa tribe were typical of so many desert people, unassuming and generous of heart. What intrigued me most of all, however, was the fact that the women greatly outnumbered the men. And it was predominantly the women who bore arms in defense of the tribe, something they did superbly, as I was to learn. I befriended Hamia, lead spear of the Mufasi, the first shield warriors. She epitomized everything that was admirable and worthy about the Bantiwa, and we became oath-bonded, sisters in arms. I began to practice fighting skills with her, and we exchanged hand-to-hand combat techniques, learning much from each other. In the months that followed, I was in no hurry to return to the world I had previously been part of. I needed time to get a perspective on what had happened at the tombs, and why no one had come searching for me. For now at least, I was content to travel with the tribe as they made their sedate way along the ancient trade routes of the immense North African plains. It was mostly a peaceful period, despite the inevitable raids by brigands or low-level pilferers. The periods of tranquility allowed me time to become familiar with the ways and speech of my adoptive people. Periodically, we would stop at settlements to trade oils and essences that the Bantiwa produced from the many varieties of plant life that they gathered in remote parts of the arid landscape. These extracts had simple uses, such as perfumes, but most of their oils were intended for healing and were highly sought after across the region. I have never met a people who so valued an unremarkable and inconspicuous appearance. They were Spartan in their simplicity, even their name, Bantiwa, translated as restraint or moderation. In time I understood how this was all a disguise, a ruse. The Bantiwa were guardians of a great secret centred on an extraordinary botanical specimen, the Shimalau, or Knight's Tears. This plant was totally unique in its healing properties, and was revered and protected by the Bantiwa, almost as if it was their very Ruwa, their soul. Several weeks after journeying far from the pyramids, I spotted a child playing with a battered old rucksack. Of course, I recognized it as my own, but knew instinctively that it had no part in my new life here in the desert. I let her keep it. Run-ins with scavengers were a norm of existence in the desert. Most were nothing to be overly concerned about, even with Western mercenaries and legionnaire deserters making their presence felt in the region. Then, everything about my new existence took an uncanny twist the night we were attacked by a rival tribe led by a brute named Scar. He was what is called Ruwa Azalam, Dark Soul, amongst the Bedouin, and was known to be in cahoots with some obscure Western conglomerate, staking a claim in the area. On the night in question, Scar's brigands ripped their way into 3 of our main storage tents. The Mufasi responded instantly, engaging the invaders in silent close-quarter fighting that was savage and merciless. I fought my way to Scar and tackled him head-on. He was powerful, but blinded by his own rage, and I chopped him up a bit before delivering deep slices across both leg tendons. He went down, but was instantly surrounded by a phalanx of heavily armed Bedou, so I couldn't get to him to finish the job. Killjoys. He was dragged off cursing. We had dead and wounded to take care of, so there was no sense of jubilation at Scar's defeat. As we prepared to decamp and make ourselves scarce, I found myself surrounded by a circle of smiling faces. Friends, tribal elders, and people I knew well. They addressed me as El Hawa, Desert Wind, for the very first time. Patai, standing in the shadows, raised a palm in greeting, or blessing. I have never felt so accepted into a people's way of life. I now had 2 tribal names, El Hawa and Ushani, a private name used by Patai whenever we were alone. The tale of Scar's defeat spread quickly throughout the region. Of course, in his version, he had fought magnificently against a demonic figure, possibly even some kind of enraged angelic being. A Muakib. I realised that this pretentious blustering was something that could be used to our advantage. I began leading select groups of Mufasi fighters on stealth sorties against potential raiders. This was intended to enhance the growing El Hawa myth, rather than to inflict any serious damage, although there were often casualties. I had been presented by the tribe with a new Bedouin robe and cloak of a deep ocean blue. This distinctive garb came to identify El Hawa wherever and whenever she appeared. The legend of El Hawa, clad in ghostly blue robes, grew exponentially and took on mythic proportions, and rumours spread the Bantiwa are protected by an avenging angel. Give them a wide berth. Over the unfolding seasons, I lost all track of time. To be honest, I'd given up on my former life. I had found a place in the world that suited me perfectly. Periodically, we rested up in one of the tribe's sanctuary retreats. Usually a concealed cave system, of which there were many scattered across the region. Here we could recuperate, make necessary repairs, and celebrate in the tribe's own unique fashion. These underground realms were a marvel to explore. I came across many ancient carvings and artifacts, caverns filled with the shattered remains of ruined settlements. These places had long been lost to history, and I had an exclusive access to them. I was in heaven. Patai allowed me to see the distilling chambers where the healing oils were extracted, an astonishing sight, somewhat reminiscent of an ancient alchemist's laboratory, or so I'd imagine. The weaving chambers, too, were a marvel. This was where the tribesfolk produced subtle glowing tapestries, patterned with landscapes and symbolic figures. The Bantiwa had no form of written language, and these weavings were a record of their unique tribal history. It was pointed out to me how the recurrent symbol for the sacred Shimalau occurred not only in the ornate patterning of the tapestries, but on clothing, on amulets, engraved on weapons, hidden amongst everyday objects. It was everywhere, once I knew what to look for. My instincts were on high alert, telling me that I was on the periphery of some stunning revelation, no doubt of it. Something profound and far-reaching existed at the heart of this outwardly unremarkable people. But what? At this stage, I got no more than hints and veiled references. I overheard mention of Shimalau's sixth oil, whilst the elders discussed the ever-intrusive Westerners, who were ruthlessly seeking the origins of an elixir oil. What? An elixir? Petai, in her imperturbable way, would not satisfy my curiosity. I must learn to be patient, she advised. Good grief, I was doing my best. I burned off my excess energies by leading sorties as El Hawa, or by exploring this astonishing region of the world, so richly endowed with historic ruins and unknown sites. I was making discoveries that any archaeologist would have willingly assassinated Napoleon to be part of. I'm glad to say that my mastery of their unique language was improving. To my delight, the elders declared me blood daughter of the tribe. Now I truly belonged. I was truly Bantiwa. Also, in due time, I was initiated into the mysteries of the miraculous elixir, or sixth oil of the Shimalau. Petai said I was ready, but that is all I will share of such matters in this account. Not a whisper of Shimalau lore must ever be known outside the tribe. For all Bantiwa, this is the unbreakable law. From time to time, I caught a glimpse of my old rucksack being played with amongst the tents, which would set me to thinking about the life I had disowned, or had disowned me. My English origins still had claim on me, though not in the way that my current life had. There was unfinished business back there, I knew it. I discussed this with Petai and the elders, as well as friends. As El Hawa, I felt a duty of protection for my adopted family. The Bantiwa were perfectly capable of protecting themselves, exactly as they had before I joined them, in my desperate and bedraggled state. I would be missed, yes, but it would not be a permanent absence. I would return once things were sorted out in the UK. The decision was made. I would travel to England and return here as soon as possible. There was much emotional leave-taking, the memory of which still affects me deeply. As I walked from the encampment, Petai appeared, indicating that she was to travel with me to the coast. Thus we had plenty of time for easy, companionable exchanges over the next few days. When the time came to part, she held my eyes and handed me a silver leather pouch. It contained an amulet on a thin silver chain. Her final words to me are burned onto my heart. The return to my ancestral homeland went smoothly enough, but I felt desperately out of place. Family solicitors had to sort out the fact that I wasn't actually dead, but I couldn't have cared less either way. My waking hours and my dreams were populated with faces and events that were now thousands of miles away. As for Von Croy, I'd get around to him in my own good time. Nothing here in my old life fired up any real sense of purpose anymore. Then came news that left me devastated. News of an incident in the desert. The word that the Bantiwa had been massacred, wiped out, leaving no trace. My mind raced. Was this the work of Scar? Or Legionnaire deserters? Or Western prospectors? Mercenaries? I was desolate, worse than when I emerged from the pyramid ruins. Where had Petai been when all of this had taken place? It didn't make sense. In the middle of my mental turmoil, a seed of doubt took root in my mind. My thoughts took a different track. How on earth had they been taken so completely by surprise? It was unthinkable. Constant vigilance was the principle all Bantiwa lived by. That and their superlative combat skills would have protected them, surely. No. The report could not be true. I simply had to uncover the truth for myself. I could be in the region within 36 hours, initiate my own investigation. That's one thing I have the t-shirt for, digging into the past, to uncover buried truths. If Scar wasn't the one responsible, he would know who was. I owed him a visit, possibly as El Hawa. That'd make the old goat-face talk. I was ready to leave, which was when I heard from Von Croy in Paris. He was asking for my help. Yeah, my help. I could take a detour via Paris and treat the spineless Iscariot to a piece of my mind, which of course is where things took a turn all of their own. No one in their wildest dreams could have predicted how that would turn out.
There you go. Quite interesting, that, wasn't it? I'm glad if you did stick around through that. That adds a lot of story behind it, and it explains one of the cutscenes that I've been able to mod back into the game that will be appearing at the beginning of the next episode, regarding the amulet that she was given by the shaman of the tribe. So come back next time. Even if you have enjoyed that recap, leave a like and a comment down below and subscribe if you feel that way inclined. But we will return and begin our journey through Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness next time. But I will see you in the next video.